Morning guys, this is Offshore's Photo, Adam here. I wanted to do a little bit of an introduction today on a piece of equipment that I've been using probably for 4 or 5 months now. I started doing surf photography initially from the land probably a couple of years ago. I moved to North Devon, was doing a lot of photography around here. Was taking trips to France, Portugal, and shooting a lot from the land. I'd looked at these kind of in-water photographers and had looked at some water housings initially for photography gear, and as a lot of you probably know, they're extremely expensive. And I'd kind of written the idea off in my mind, but then as I was getting more and more into photography and spending time in the water trying to learn to surf myself, I was really thinking I want to try and get some of these perspectives. Try and get that in-water, up-close perspective and give people a sense of what it's like to actually be out in the water. So, hunting around online, like everyone else a lot of the time for gear, I came across this product, which is the salted line water housing for the Sony A6000 range of mirrorless cameras. So some of you have probably heard of brands like Aquatech, SPL. Those water housings, you tend to be looking at £1,000, $1,000 as a bare minimum, and often you're talking more around 2,000 if you're looking for any kind of degree of control over settings, and if you're looking to be able to have sort of full manual control over your camera and elements like focus, ISO, etc. in the water, you are talking probably about £2,000. And I found this, which I believe was the brand for this is Salted Line, which I believe is a brand name from the Sea Frogs company, which again, I don't know all of the relationships between the company and the various brands it holds, but so what I decided to do was to go for this. As I say, this particular model can be used in conjunction with the Sony A6000 range of mirrorless cameras. So that's any of the Sony A6 ... cameras, apart from, I believe, the A6600. So this one can be used with cameras from the A6000, 6300, 6400, 6500. I initially bought a Sony A6000, was very happy with it, except the one feature I was looking for was, I'm looking at the moment to try and go into doing sort of in-water videography, so I was looking for image stabilization, in-body image stabilization, which the Sony A6500 has. So I decided to make the switch recently and get the Sony A6500. So what you essentially get out of the box, this is the standard port that comes with it, standard flat port. It can be used with a number of different lenses. I bought the Sony A6000 with the 16-50 kit lens, which on a crop sensor obviously gives you sort of 24-70 something, similar to that focal range. The image quality on that lens is known to not be very good, and being a complete addict for good image quality, it's what I'm kind of always really looking for. I had a look and what crop sensor lenses were likely to give the best image quality performance, and I bought the Sigma 60mm 2.8 lens. So this is the as I said, this is the 16-50 lens that came with the Sony A6000. And this here is the 60mm f2.8 Sigma lens, which is now on my Sony A6500. I just went on DxOMark, sort of looked at reviews of lenses. The impression I got is that the image quality out of this lens is one of the best. So went for this. I've been pretty happy with it. At the moment, I'm not someone who's looking to shoot super wide in the water. I tend to like a focal length sort of, I mean, this gives me an equivalent focal length of 90mm, which is great and useful in the water, because you still need to get pretty close to the surface, but in UK waves where you're not shooting these huge dramatic barreling waves, a wide lens, sometimes it can be difficult to get an effective shot, but I would say that's also down to my limitations. You know, I've only been shooting in the water for 4 or 5 months now. Had some success. Water housing wise, I've been extremely happy with this. I will tell the story of my big concern before I bought a water housing was not really that the equipment was going to let me down, but that I'm not someone who's fantastic at looking after gear, I've got to be honest, and I'm not particularly technically minded, and I was concerned that I wasn't going to be able to maintain or use this gear in an appropriate way that would ensure that the camera stayed safe. And it seems like I was, in some respects, I was right about that. I had one serious misadventure with this piece of equipment. I will show you on the back here. There is this which provides sort of protection from shadows that allows you to view your live view monitor more effectively, and that is attached to the body by this little piece of string here, which is tied there. Now, the one story I've heard regularly about this camera body is that people do get issues with leaks which are down to user error and which are related to this. So what happens is, when you're getting set up, you're in a hurry, you're excited to get in the water, you get a little bit of this string here caught, and you create an entryway for water to get in. And unfortunately that did happen to me. I was at a break that I hadn't been to. It was a reef break. I was really agonizing about trying to assess, is it safe for me to get out here? Should I get in, shouldn't I get in? I spent quite a while that day sort of looking at the conditions, assessing and working out, is it a good decision for me to get in? And I decided to get in, but I was so preoccupied with my own personal safety that day, that I rushed the setup of this, and I made the classic mistake of getting this caught in there. Now, one feature on this piece of equipment is that there is a leak alarm, and once I got out over the reef and got into the water, absolutely beautiful conditions that day, perfect. And I started trying to take some shots and the camera wasn't responding the way it should. And then I started to hear this sound, and I heard it was the leak alarm that was going off. And I took a glance in the bottom, and there was a significant leak of water at the bottom of this water housing. So, you know, my heart sank. I began the swim in, and made it back, fully expecting, you know, very much fully expecting that the camera's done for. That's the end of it. There was a really significant amount of water in here, and once I sort of clambered over the reef, got back out, took the camera out, it was still working. I say it was fine. The one issue I've had since then is, now a lot of people are attracted to this piece of kit because of the trigger grip, the trigger sort of firing mechanism. And I think a lot of people anticipate when they get this piece of equipment that they're going to use this to shoot with. Now, the impression I get is that people who are shooting who are setting their focus manually in a water housing setting. So they're not concerned about the half press to acquire focus, and they're not in the water looking at dealing with focus in the water. Perhaps you would use this a lot more. My experiments with using this, because I'm not setting the focus manually prior to getting in the water, because I'm relying on the Sony A6000 series great autofocus, I'm finding that I shoot like this a lot more. So I half press, acquire focus, look at the tracking, fire away. Well, the one issue I had after that leak is that the connector between this, which internally connects to a little sort of adapter that clicks into the side, the USB port at the side of your camera, that has malfunctioned. Now, I imagine if I was someone who was really concerned about using this pistol grip trigger, and if at some point in the future I want that back, then I will probably go back to Sea Frogs and see what I can do about getting a replacement part. But you know, what I want to stress, beyond this misadventure that I've just sort of recounted for you, I've been really happy with this piece of gear. It's you know, a friend of mine has got a Nikon D850 and he's got a water housing for that. He's got one of the big old, I say old, you know, probably 6, 7, 8 years old maybe. It's an SPL housing, I believe. Now, nothing against SPL, I think they make fantastic housings, but in terms of the weight of his kit, when the one time we went out in the water together and I sort of had a play around with his kit, the weight difference between a D850 in an SPL housing versus this with a little Sony mirrorless camera is pretty, it's really quite significant. And so this is neutrally buoyant, as the housings generally are, unless you're using dive housings. So they're going to float in the water, but when you're sort of trying to get out, when you're trying to get out the back, you know, you've got your work cut out for you a lot of the time, and the lighter the gear, the better, to be honest. So I've been really happy with this. The Sony A65, you know, the major challenge I'm finding with shooting in the water is, in terms of photographic challenges, is focus. Now, as I say, a lot of people who shoot in the water, what they do is they set the camera to manual focus. They prepare the focus prior. They sort of set a focus distance of 3 to 6 feet. They set the aperture so that you're going to get clean focus for everything beyond a certain point, and they go out and they shoot like that. That just hasn't worked practically for me yet. I'm sure that as you know, the professional in-water photographers, a lot of them are doing that. So, you know, take it under advisement that people who are more skilled and experienced than me in this area do it a different way. But what I've been finding is the part of the focusing issue is that getting in close enough proximity to a surfer so that you can get them at the moment during their ride that you want, whilst also kind of being able to somehow signal to the surfer that you're experienced enough, you know it's your job to get out of the way, that they don't have to worry about what you're doing, that you're going to be responsible for them not hitting you. You know, a big part of in-water photography seems to be about managing your position in the lineup. And the other huge challenge, frankly, to be honest, someone my age, middle-aged now unfortunately, is fitness. And you know, if you get out a certain peak and you think this peak's working really well, and then you look and then 200 meters that way, something great is happening on a peak over there, and you think, I've now got to swim 200 meters with the gear to get shots there, and you constantly you are trying to work out where to position yourself, and but as I say, I'm very happy with this. It's been a great entry point to shooting in the water. It's got full control, so I'm able to, go in. Routinely I'll say I'll be going in, a thousandth of a second with an aperture somewhere between 4 and 7.1, something like that. And I'll set it to auto ISO. But quite often in the water I might want to, let's say something's happening with a wave and I want to get some slower shutter speed shots, or I want to make adjustments, or I want to shoot video, I want to change settings. It's really great having this full manual control at a reasonable price. I didn't have any issues with delivery. When I ordered it, I think it arrived in sort of maybe 5 to 8 days, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but there were no issues. So it's been a very useful piece of kit. There are multiple different ports you can get, so I'm looking at possibilities for other lenses. So one combination I'm interested in is Sony do a 90mm macro lens that produces beautiful images apparently, so I'm debating that to give me, because that can also be used as a portrait lens, so I'm debating whether to go with that, and there's a port that's available for that lens. There's obviously dome ports for over-under shots if you want to do sort of over-under shots, which are very popular in water photography. But yeah, I have to say, that's my review of the gear. I've been obviously I've not gone into the details and shown you the mechanisms exactly. It's got these latches. I know that they've updated certain design elements, so hopefully you can see here these are these clasps. In this iteration they added a locking mechanism here, so that you pull this down in order for it to, so when you pull it across to lock it, pull that down, it's now locked, you can't accidentally pull that open. You do need to look after these. You want to be washing it, getting rid of it, salt water on the connections and things after every time you use it. There are O-rings, so little plastic rings inside here that create the seal, and you get sent a little bit of silicone or gel that you can put over those to keep those. I do take it apart fairly often, fully. Obviously I leave the pistol grip in situ, but I take it apart beyond that, take the ports off. But I have to say, for someone who's not the most technically minded, technically gifted, I've been really happy with it. It does incorporate the possibility of using zoom lenses, obviously. So this is the zoom ring that came with the port that I got. So this enables me to zoom from 16 to 50 on this lens, or effectively 24 to 70. So I've been happy with it, and yeah, I'll leave it there. If you're interested to see some of the shots that I've taken, my Instagram is Offshores Photo. Yeah, so I'm in the process of setting a website up. At the moment, I'm just an enthusiast photographer, sort of weighing up the pros and cons and potential possibly of trying to do some work professionally. It does seem, what I would say for anyone who's doing surf photography from the land and is interested in trying to do surf photography professionally, I've had a lot more attention as a photographer once I got in the water with this. People are coming over to you, they're asking about what do you do with the images, where are they available. I've sold images for small amounts of money, obviously, at this point, but when I'm out shooting on certain days, and So it's nice if you can go out and make a bit of money. It covers all your expenses, maybe contributes a little money towards the gear, although at this stage it's still only small amounts. So in some respects, if you're looking to sort of market yourself as an overall action photographer, having a water housing, getting out in the water, getting to know the people who, getting to close contact with the people doing these sports is a great way to get connections. So I'm going to leave it at that. Anyway, thank you guys.